NSE study break with Dr. Linwood Witten. So, as all of you may know, I did do the NSE exchange last year to Alabama State University, and Dr. Linwood Witten was actually the coordinator at ASU who helped me transition to my host campus. There we go. So, Dr. Witten, introduce yourself. Tell us where you're from, your major, what school you went to, and what university. Well, I already said it, but tell us about you.
Well, first of all, I'd like to say thank you very much for interviewing me. We had a great time hosting you at Alabama State University. Again, I am Dr. Linwood Witten, and I serve as the NSE Coordinator for the Alabama State University, located here in Montgomery, Alabama. A little bit more about myself. I actually don't consider myself to be from anywhere in particular. I consider myself to be a global citizen because I was a military kid. I lived and studied abroad and all over the United States. But I did finish my education in high school in Birmingham, Alabama. I attended Alabama Agricultural and Mechanical University.
Oh.
Yes, Alabama A&M University. And I majored in biology. I also have a Master's of Science in Higher Education, Administration, and a PhD. So, I went to school all my life pretty much.
Oh, listen! And that's Dr. Witten for y'all. There's so much more to him. Just, do the NSC program with him. I'm telling you. So, my next question is how did you come to learn about the NSE program and end up being the NSE coordinator at ASU?
That's a great question. So when I applied for the job at Alabama State University, actually the National Student Exchange program was a part of my job description. So the program was completely new to me because I had never experienced such a program at any of the institutions that I worked at prior to coming on board at Alabama State. And I'm so grateful to have the opportunity. It's probably one of the best programs that we run out of my office.
Ooh, okay. So what was it like an off-topic question, what was it like doing the NSE program to help get ASU on the map, if you know what I'm trying to say?
Well, I would like to think that Alabama State University was already on the map with NSE because of the great work that the previous NSE coordinator, Ms. Deborah Jones, had done with the program at the institution. I do know that Alabama State University was one of the first NSE programs in the state of Alabama. And so I'm proud of that in terms of HBCUs. Now we have Tuskegee and Alabama A&M who have become members of NSE. So we have a little bit of competition.
Oh, okay. Although you go to ASU was first? Okay. All right. So how do you help NSE students adjust to ASU?
Well, that's a great question. That's a very important question. So I would definitely say that there are three main areas that I help students acclimate to and pretty much play the role of coordinating some processes. So financial aid,
definitely,
and academic counseling. So advising for academics, making sure that the credits that you will obtain at Alabama State will transfer back to your home institution. When it comes to financial aid, making sure that whether you're on plan A or plan B, that you don't have any problems. So it's a seamless process with you being able to take care of your financial obligations to both your home institution and Alabama State University. In addition to that, housing is very important. And because you are our guest at Alabama State University, we like to make sure that you have the best that we have to offer during your stay, whether you come for one semester or a full academic year. So I coordinate your housing assignments to make sure that you're, of course, in an upperclassman hall and that you are in one of the better halls on campus because we have more traditional style and then we have suite style living for our students as well.
Wow. Okay. I do remember when I was first coming to ASU, you sent the email, you was like, I need this by this day. I was like, I got you. So I think the big adjustment to Alabama State was the change in the starting dates. Because in New York City, New York City in general, all schools start late. So then I was just coming out of school like the third, fourth week of May, and then I had to turn around and come to ASU the first week of August. I'm like, huh?
Yes. Being that I lived in the Northeast as a child, I do remember going to school after Labor Day.
Definitely.
And once I've lived around the world in different parts of the United States, coming back to the South, that we start school before Labor Day, and then we get a Labor Day break. So yeah, that could be a bit of an adjustment for some students, depending on what region of the country that they're attending school in.
Very true, very true. So, moving on, what are some highlights that students should check out when they come on exchange to your school?
Well, I always tell students it depends on which semester you come to Alabama State in. If you come in the fall, one thing I would like to talk about when it comes to HBCUs in particular is that there's a strong emphasis on the legacy and the history and the traditions of those institutions. And so for us here in the South, we like to say that football season is like church. So everyone's involved when it comes to football season. Sports fan or not, it gets you involved. And so a lot of our programming on campus involves, whatever month that we're in at the time. In terms of, for example, we have October coming up. So everything is going to be centered around Breast Cancer Awareness Month, right? So that means that the band will put on a production. Their attire will be pink. The programming on campus, from the health center to student affairs to academic affairs, lectures, everything will be around awareness. So you can also have fun, but also learn and engage. Let's see what else. I think homecoming is a big time for HBCU campuses as well. Students enjoy not only the lecture series that we have, but they also enjoy some of the activities that go on campus, from the pep rallies to the step shows to the concerts. I believe you went to a concert when you were at Alabama State. And one thing I will say that because I'm very well connected on campus and I have total access to so many perks, that I make sure that the NSE students are able to benefit from that privilege. And so when it comes to giving them, passes or tickets to things that I have access to, I always make those readily available because I want them to have the best experience while they're at Alabama State University. Some of the other traditions, we have a number of classic football games. So in the fall, we play Tuskegee University, who is also part of the NSC as well. And we have a classic football game against that institution. And then again, in October as well, we have one of the longest standing classics in the history of HBCU football, which is again my alma mater, Alabama A&M University. And that game is hosted in Birmingham. So it gives students an opportunity to travel to the largest city in the state of Alabama and watch a rivalry game between Alabama State University and Alabama A&M. So that's a very exciting time as well. And there's a week of events and concerts and comedy shows and things leading up to that. So when you move into the springtime, things are really focused on students trying to graduate, students trying to become initiated into Greek and sorority life, like fraternity and sorority life. So then, you have intake processes happening. You have students getting ready to transition to, their careers. So there's a number of events, career fairs that are happening at the time, spring break activities. I mean, the possibilities are that we do during that term.
Well, one thing I could say is I did enjoy as an NSC student, the connections you gave us to events, but it wasn't just hey, football season's here and I had tickets here. It was just there's a dance concert going on.
Yes. So that's another thing too. I'm very deliberate in the things that I want my students to attend. So when it comes to the SGA, because I work close with them too, any of those activities, I make sure that our SGA president and the other members of the cabinet know who our NSE students are, so they can make sure that they are included. And in the spirit of inclusivity and diversity, because I am the chief diversity officer of the campus as well, I make sure that we support different areas on campus. And I believe that students need to have a cultural exchange on a campus, no matter where you go. So our School of Visual and Performing Arts put on productions that I've ever seen a young group of talented individuals execute. And I support that department. And I always, I gave you guys tickets all the time.
Oh, of course.
Any types of recitals or productions that they were putting on. So that's another opportunity for students to engage at Alabama State when they come.
Oh, very much like the exchange itself, like the overall experience at Alabama State University was really fun. I was like really grateful, like especially like I always go back to the dance tickets because it's like I love dance. I love to watch it. So it's like it felt like you was trying to like get to like know us like personally. Like I remember you gave tickets to the other Natasha, to the orchestra. I got dance and like. I would say Amani and Anaje, they like floated between like our activities. So we did like a lot of float, like you helped us like connect onto Alabama State University's campus. And it was like kind of easy to transition actually. So
yeah, and before COVID-19, it was very easy for me to engage with our students because of course, we had our standing dinner that I would make sure that I would take you guys out to be having a great time with, so you have a seamless transition, but also not to just say, hey, I'm handing you over to, student life or student body or academic affairs, but to say, hey, I need to make sure that you are okay in terms of your health, safety, and well-being while you're here acclimating to our environment. So
definitely. Listen, I was with Oak Smoke. I loved it all. But like, so in terms of that, what are your favorite school traditions at ASU?
I would definitely say our convocation, which we have 2 of them each year. We have a number of galas for fundraising. Those are always nice. And then, we have activities that are surrounding or involving the Student Government Association. And so whether that's the inauguration or the Miss ASU coordination, anytime that the student organizations, when it comes to fraternity and sorority life, have their pageants on campus. I think I invited you guys to a couple pageants.
Yes.
I always try to, support those students as well and get involved. I think those are my favorite traditions at Alabama State University.
I think my favorite moment at ASU with you is that you try to connect the NSE students with the international population. Like that, I really appreciate it because yes, a lot of us come from like Caribbean backgrounds, and then like coming from New York City, where it's so diverse. And I'm just used to, at my home campus, I was used to seeing like a lot of international students to come to ASU with like little international students. I'm just like, huh? And there's certain songs they didn't know, but we knew. Right. And it was just like, okay, how do we meet in the middle? So that's something like I appreciate it.
See, that was quite easy to do because part of my job responsibility, I'm the director of diversity and international affairs. And so both of those programs are ran out of my office. So I feel a strong obligation to make sure that, both of those student populations know each other. And again, everything that we do in our office is inclusive to the entire campus community. And so I serve not only international students, NSE students, but I also serve the domestic student population as well. And, I think that everyone has an opportunity for some type of cultural exchange, whether you're going abroad or whether you're staying here in the United States. Because I always tell people, hey, we're in Alabama, but you can go over to Georgia and be in Atlanta, and it's another world. even like going to New Orleans, the culture is different, and you don't have to go that far to experience that culture. So
That's very true.
Huge opportunity.
It's very true. Like, especially like I would say the really big benefit of being like at ASU was just how close it was to like other states. Atlanta, Georgia was like 2 hours away, 2 hours and 30 minutes away. Florida, Miami is 10 hours, but like Florida, technically Jackson.
To the coast.
Yeah, it's like 2 hours right there. New Orleans was like it's 4 hours. I'm like, oh, okay, you can kind of go around. Like, I liked it. Like every chance. I would say one thing with like my NSE cohort, we had every chance to travel. Like, and I like how like connected we got. It was just like 1 minute, hey, let's go here. Like, me and Naja and Amani went to Las Vegas, and then you told us, hey, check this out over here, check this out. And then me and Tasha, we went to Cali. It was just like, well, check this one out over here. So we did a lot of traveling. So I definitely like, we found things to do outside of campus.
Yeah, and you ladies have kept in touch since you have left the program as well.
That's very true. So I think that's another thing most important is always like keeping in touch, like making sure, same thing like Dr. Bird said, you don't want to forget the people who you made friends with at exchange. It's just, don't think of it as like a one and done kind of thing.
Yeah, we build connections, and you know, we hold on to those connections and create relationships. So.
Okay, so one thing I actually want to talk about, well, actually, no, for ASU students who exchange somewhere else, how do you keep up with them and the progress they've made at their host campus?
Yeah, you know what? That's a great question as well. So the same way that I connect with the incoming NSE students, I make sure that I check my Hornets that are away from home. So I have set some times on my calendar to remind me to check in. And I'm one of those people, I'm very personable. So you can literally, I give everybody my cell phone number. So you can always contact me, but I'm not always in my office. So I think that's another thing that makes me unique as a coordinator, because you have direct access to me at all times, because I feel responsible for you. So I always reach out to those students that I have sent away on exchange for NSE, and I check on them, like, Gene, like, how are you doing? How are your classes? Sometimes I will check in with their coordinators to make sure that they're not having any problems adjusting, because I understand, based upon the culture of our campus and where I'm sending that student and the type of student that they are, because all of my students are quite unique and have different interests and come from different backgrounds. Just making sure that they're okay, they don't need any additional support from me or encouragement. And then once they return, I always ask them to put together some type of presentation of, like, you know, whether if they're tech savvy, then, you know, the presentation may, you know, be a little bit more elaborate, or if, you know, they just use PowerPoint, which is great. But I want them to be able to have time to reflect, and it's something that they can actually hold on. So it creates a time capsule for them as well, because it's their property, their intellectual property. And then I share it. I share those stories on our Instagram, and I share those stories when I have different orientations. So to tell the narrative and have the student tell the story. And I share it with administrators on campus as well.
Oh, okay. So when I was on ASU's campus, the biggest struggle I seen was with the NSE program was a lot of students didn't know what it was and often confused it with study abroad. How do you plan to promote the NSE program for ASU students to apply?
Yes, so that whole connection between the NSE program and study abroad program. So I think that where students missed out is that they hear exchange. And a lot of times students don't think about domestic exchanges. They think everything has to be abroad, right?
Yes.
And so they've heard of NSE, or they've seen the marketing, but their brains don't make that connection that it's actually a domestic exchange. So then when students come into my office to talk about going abroad, I say, hey, actually, we have this program called National Student Exchange. That's the only program that I have the oversight of on campus. However, I do want to say that the administration has finally given me study abroad. So now I'll have study abroad too. So I'm currently in the process of developing that program. And then with the oversight that I now have, I can, create a model in which I have the support of academic affairs and student life to be able to bring that together to increase our numbers. Because I personally think that NSE provides an opportunity that study abroad does not. For example, removing barriers and access for students who cannot afford to go abroad, because you don't have to spend as much money on an airline ticket or worry about getting a passport. That sometimes is a challenge for some students as well, because it's another financial obligation, especially with us being in these COVID-19 times. A lot of families are strapped for financial resources right now. We realize that. But when you have a program where you're able to not go too far away from home, okay, and then you have the opportunity to have a plan A and a plan B. I always tell my students, if you're on an academic scholarship, you really come out good with, choosing an NSE program and choosing a program that has a more robust academic program related to your major. So you can get exposure, and more resources. Because I do realize in some areas we can do better, and in some areas we do excellent. So.
Definitely. And so ASU is HBCU, and you went to a conference where you spoke on trying to get more students to exchange to HBCUs. Can you tell us a little bit about that, how that went, and what other HBCUs would you like to see come into NSE?
Oh wow!
Sorry.
To answer that question, I believe there are 12 HBCUs that are currently participating in the NSE program, and the consortium has about 200 institutions between Canada, the United States, Puerto Rico, and Guam.
Yeah, Guam and Virgin Islands.
Yeah, the Virgin Islands. And so, for those programs, I would say that I would like to see Florida A&M, but they have joined NSE, so we welcome them. And they're also a member of the Southwestern Athletic Conference now. So they're going to be one of our schools that we'll compete with in the athletic conference. Who else would I like to see? I would love to see some schools in the state of Georgia, because I know that students who are interested in the HBCU experience oftentimes only know about some of the flagship schools. And when I say that, those are the Howards, the Morehouse, the Spelman,
the Black Ivy Leagues.
Hampton, like Hampton. So I would like to see some of those schools and to join, because again, a lot of those schools are like Morehouse and Spelman, they're private institutions, so they're going to have a different experience, and they're going to attract a different type of student. Not only that, but they're all rich in when it comes to history and their legacies. So I think it'll be a great opportunity, a partnership for both those institutions and NSE. So.
No problem. So what are some questions students should be asking when exploring their options for NSE?
Some of the questions students should ask, I would definitely say thinking about their major. Because one of the major points about exchange in this program is to make sure that the students not only gain some cultural competencies, but that they're also able to continue their education and receive those credits. And so you want to choose programs that really align with what your academic goals are. For example, I had a student who she aspires to go to medical school. She's from Texas, and Louisiana State University is one of the medical schools she wants to attend. So one of my suggestions when a student comes in is always like, well, what term do you plan to exchange on? Because there are certain things about the regions in which these schools are that you need to know that'll be happening. Like, for example, if you're from the South and you want to go to the North, like when you choose the fall, it's going to probably be snowing later, it's towards the end of the term, and if you're not used to that, whether you're in a suburbia location or if you're exchanging somewhere like New Jersey, close to New Jersey. I think we have schools in New Jersey as well. You know, you might have to find alternative housing. I know, like in some of the schools in Puerto Rico, they don't have traditional housing on campus. So those are things that you have to take in consideration. You have to think about the cost of the tuition, depending on what plan that you're on, whether you're on a scholarship at your home institution or if you're using some type of federal aid, how that's going to impact your ability to exchange. And then I also tell students that, you know, when they want to exchange at some of our more competitive institutions, especially like out in Hawaii, you know, so many students want to go to Hawaii on exchange, and who wouldn't? I wish they had a NSE Coordinator exchange. And I would definitely take advantage of that opportunity. And so our cost, location, and how accessible it is, and just understanding that in a short time, you need to be able to acclimate to that environment. So nothing that will be too extreme from what you can adjust to. And I also think about this too, because, you know, HBCUs are very diverse. And so you want to think about the climate in which we are in right now when it comes to social justice. So like me, knowing that I serve a majority African-American student population, when I'm talking to that student about where they want to go, I also talk about things they need to be aware of in terms of culture. And that not only goes for my students of color, but also goes for my students who may be LGBTQ, because some of their values may not align with the conservative values of some of the places that they're going to. So also think about their safety as well.
Definitely. I would say, go ahead.
And I would, not only their safety, but their well-being, you know, because I'm sure that at some point, just like you traveled outside of campus, whether it was to the local Walmart, Target, or to even go to the airport to visit the cities and the surrounding area, you know, I wanted to make sure that you guys would be safe, and that, you know, that you're in an environment, because we're responsible for you guys. So I know, like certain places, if I have students that have, you know, big personalities and they're going to a very small conservative place, then you want to make them aware of those cultural and social norms in that region or that state they're going to.
It's very true. Like one thing, like especially touching on with the NSE program, like when I started applying, all of my choices got narrowed down just because my major was public relations. So I needed somewhere with like a strong communications program, but then also PR is not really a popular major at some of the schools I was looking at for in the NSC program. So I was just like, okay, well, which one would like match best? Which one would have like the classes that could transfer over for me? And then I was also thinking about location. And my dad was over here like, I don't have family that lives in Alabama. Like, I don't like you're too. It was more of a like you're too far kind of thing. It's not. No, actually, no. It wasn't that I was too far. It's just like who's around you that can immediately get to you if something happens. Climate-wise, I was not ready for Alabama heat. It was hot, and I was like, "What is this?" Like, but it was a nice hot, and then like winter wasn't really winter. I learned down there that school, like ASU, closes if like there's a drop of snow, and I'm just like,
yes,
go. Hold on, y'all got benefits down here because New York City be like, go to school. So it was interesting. Definitely like the cultural norms was like something to adjust to, which wasn't an issue. It was just more like I need to get out of the mindset that I'm at my home campus and I'm at a new campus.
Well, I think also when talking to you when you came to Alabama State too, I think that by you coming from, you know, living in New York, you were more open-minded than some of our students. So I think that you helped some of the students that you came in contact with see things from a different perspective as well.
Definitely.
So we appreciate that.
Everybody was like, you have a New York accent. I'm like, what do we sound like? Y'all have accents. They're just like, what? We have one? Yes, y'all do. So it was fun. It was fun. Well, my last question to actually wrap up the interview: what advice would you give NSC students coming to ASU?
What advice would I give to NSC students coming to ASU? I would definitely say check your emails, respond in a timely manner, understand that I'll be your point of contact. I don't usually get my personal phone number out until after you've arrived to Alabama State University, but I probably should start giving them my number earlier so they can reach me, because I keep having all these extra responsibilities given to me. It's harder and harder to reach. But just know that when you come to Alabama State University, that you will become a part of a family. Being at a HBCU, you definitely, we have a very family-friendly, student-centered environment. At Alabama State, it's all about the students. Right now, during COVID-19, we are a mask mandatory campus, so you are required to wear a mask on campus. We are practicing social distancing in terms of what the guidelines are for the CDC. You will also see another piece of advice, to realize that you will be engaging in student life, because my office is under the Division of Student Affairs and Enrollment Management. We want you to not only to learn, but we want you to grow while you're there. And we look forward to all the students that want to come to Alabama State University. And whenever there's an opportunity to engage with the other HBCUs that are members of NSC in the state of Alabama, that we will take full advantage of that opportunity so that you can meet those NSC students who are on exchange at Tuskegee University or Alabama A&M University.
Whoa. I'm not gonna hold you. I just want to throw in a little question, right? So you're an alumni of AAMU, but you work at ASU. So when Magic City Classic comes up, who do you support?
When the Magic City Classic comes around, I am a Bulldog all day. Now, I will say this. I just recently got promoted to the president's cabinet. So I serve as the interim assistant vice president of student affairs, which means that I will have to work during this football game. So I'll be a Hornet then. And I'm also now the Student Government Association's advisor. So those work obligations will actually take precedent over, me being able to enjoy. But again, while I'm there, I fully am engaged in what's going on because I'm cheering for both sides. Those particular classic games are win-win for both institutions. Whether you win on the football field, we're both winning in the classroom. And that's what it's all about. That's all we here is for, for education and making sure that our students have, opportunities to go into the workforce and be successful, law-abiding citizens. And so it's always a pleasure to be able to be in that space, to know that I'm impacting students, and I still have a legacy at my alma mater as well.
I seen it. So that's actually it for the interview. Those are great responses to all the questions. Definitely, I need everyone to check out this interview because this was when I say these are great responses. Especially this is first-hand responses from my NSE coordinator. So again, I'm Natasha. Thank you for tuning in to the NSC Study Break with me and Dr. Linwood Witten, the NSC coordinator of Alabama State University. As he said, check out the NSC programs. Keep rewatching this video if you need any tips. You can actually check out this video on across all NSC platforms. They're on YouTube, they're on Instagram, and they're on Facebook, if I'm not mistaken. Just look up National Student Exchange, or you can go to nsc.org and apply. Thank you. We out.